the Stasi really hiding behind every corner? Popular media would have you believe that every other person in East Germany was informing on each other, and with stories about how people informed on their spouse, on their teammate, fellow band members, and friends were often feeding information to the state police, it can certainly appear that way. So better question, how many people worked for East Germany's Ministry for State Security, the infamous secret state police, the Stasi? Which itself leads to another question. What did it mean to work for the Stasi? Because there's a difference between how many people worked for the Stasi, how many people were officially counted as informants, unofficial collaborators in Stasi speak, people who gave information to the Stasi simply as a function of their job in East Germany, and that simply existing in East Germany could wind up with you providing information to the Stasi. So do you want the number up front for how much of the population were officially informers for the Stasi? 1% year over year, or roughly 500,000 people for the existence of East Germany. In 1989, this number was about 173,000. As you can guess from the diatribe that it took me to get here, that number tells us not that much. So let's explore how we get there. In 1989, the Stasi employed 91,015 people full-time. Note that this wasn't 91,000 full-time agents, just simply the amount of people that worked directly for the Stasi. In Perleberg, for example, for 53 full-time Stasi employees, only 24 were directly involved in state surveillance. The goal of the Stasi was to maintain one officer for every 180 citizens. In comparison, the Gestapo, at best, was at a 1 to 2,000 ratio, and the KGB was at 1 to 5,800. So when you combine the amount of people working for the Stasi officially and unofficially, this leads to about 1 for every 50 people in East Germany, or about 2% of the population. But for full-time Stasi employees, they found themselves inserted into every level of East German society. They were seconded into the military, they were part of the border control, they wound up in factories, they were in apartment blocks. Basically, wherever East Germany thought that they had a soft hole in its underbelly, they had a Stasi agent there. But this also meant that the Stasi couldn't be everywhere. And so they developed a network of citizens informing on their other citizens, passing on observations and what they knew to their Stasi handlers so that the Stasi could decide what and how to act. These were the inoffiziellen Mitarbeiter, the unofficial collaborators, the informants. Now there were different levels to their informants and how that 173,000 number was made up. You had the top level of informants, which actually usually controlled other informants, and then you had the sects of informants that were underneath those informants, and then you also simply had informants whose only job was to pass on the observations of the society around them. These could be politicians, these could be factory workers, and even then you had another level whose only job was to provide a safe house for the Stasi and other informers to meet. This was about roughly 20% of all Stasi informers in 1989 held that position. This is why informant is actually a bad term and collaborator is a much better one. So in addition to the different levels and types of collaborators, the Stasi also had guidelines on how to interact with them. A lot of this was guided on what they needed to do to keep the collaborator happy and informing and feeding them information. And this is where some controversy sets in, mainly centered around just how coerced were these collaborators. Historian Mary Fulbrook has estimated that only 7.7% of informants were directly coerced, that is, forced to inform by a direct threat. Historian Gary Bruce, meanwhile, contends that while it is possible to arrive at Fulbrook's number, it is only by ignoring a lot of the realities of East German society. First, he acknowledges that the Stasi greatly preferred not to coerce people into informing as it led to untrustworthy information. Second, however, he argues two prongs. First, the Stasi usually held something that they could use to blackmail participation. And second, those interacting with the Stasi were likely to know this. So as Bruce and others have argued, the Stasi's reputation itself was coercion. But still, with these small numbers, the Stasi couldn't be everywhere collecting information at all times. So this leads to the next level of how information was gathered by the Stasi, hinted at by those that were simply listening. Your mere existence could be giving information to the Stasi. You could simply be a manager writing performance reports. You could be an employee at a grocery store tracking how many people bought things and who bought things. This was all information that was passed on to the Stasi and helped to inform their actions. More than one group of people attempting to leave East Germany via something like a hot air balloon simply were caught by the Stasi because they were tracking what goods had been sold in which areas and started noticing anomalies. And this is how the Stasi maintained the grip that they did despite not literally being everywhere. They gave the impression of it. The Stasi wasn't literally hiding behind every corner, but they had discovered that it doesn't take a lot of people. In fact, it takes a shockingly small amount to successfully surveil and repress a population.